Hey, hey, hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Today on rSpace, this mama's boy takes the W. Turns out, you can never be too sure of the intentions of the person you marry. Sometimes they just want you for your daddy. Wife cheated on me with stepdad for mansion. Regrets because the mansion was mine. I'm in such a huge mess that I feel so embarrassed to even admit my situation. With embarrassment, I mean core humiliation. Yeah, how else do I say that my wife of 7 years is cheating on me with my stepdad? Yes, my wife effed my mother's husband. I'm 38 male, married for 7 years to Celia, 38 female. Our relationship has been very normal with our share of ups and downs. The downs were mostly because my wife felt I was too attached to my mom. Yeah, she called me mama's boy. Now, I'm not going to defend that because my mom is no longer alive. She passed away 2 years back. I'm glad that I was able to love her the way she deserved. She has single-handedly raised me and given me the best of everything she could and beyond her means. My mom was a single parent to me until 10 years ago, until she met Andrew. Andrew was a divorcee in his early 50s when he married Mom. I don't know what my mom saw in Andrew that she married him after being single for 2 decades. Andrew was non-existent to me when Mom was here. I used to visit her twice a week, but my conversation with Andrew didn't go beyond formal greetings and a smile. I don't know why I was just not able to accept him as a father figure, but I never showed this to Mom. I was happy that she got a companion in her last days of life. And after her demise, there was no question of Andrew's existence in my life. I didn't even meet him after my mom's funeral, though he was still living in my mom's house. He became a matter of concern for me when I found him sitting with my wife with his arms wrapped around hers. It wasn't a friendly or elderly embrace. I didn't like the body language, or rather, I should say their chemistry. It was also weird because of our family dynamics. Like I mentioned, I was never close to my stepdad, and neither was Celia close to him, so seeing such kind of comfort between them was very uncomfortable for me. I was in my car and they were sitting in a roadside cafe. I had left the office early that day to meet one of my old friends. The place where I saw them is far from my house and even my office. I usually don't go to that area. I went to meet my friend, but I was distracted most of the time. My friend kept asking me if something was bothering me. I just said it was just about impending work. How do I tell him what I saw on my way? I went home. I didn't think but confronted Celia that I saw her with Andrew. She turned pale and was lost for words. Then she was like, "Yeah, I met him for lunch." I asked her why all of a sudden. She said she bumped into him and then he offered to have lunch together. The way I was staring at her, she understood that I had seen something which I shouldn't have. She said your stepdad was really upset about losing your mom. I was trying to console him. The poor old man is lonely and he has no one to talk to. That's why he held my hands while expressing his grief. You see, I didn't tell her I saw him holding her hands. I saw him wrapping his arms around her. And the way they were talking, it didn't look like he was sad or mourning my mom. They were not laughing, but their body language was flirtatious. I didn't say anything, but I didn't buy her excuse. I decided to sleuth the matter by myself before any further confrontation. Celia is a nail artist at a beauty salon, so she works on weekends and has offs on weekdays. It was never a matter of concern between us until recently when Celia used to be too occupied with her work. We were having quite regular fights on this matter and she was not giving time to our relationship. She was fighting back that I was being needy after my mom's demise. She said that earlier I used to visit my mom twice a week, so Celia's absence didn't bother me so much. She's wrong. I used to visit my mother on weekends and on those when Celia had work. On her off days, I always ensured to return home on time to spend time with her. Previously, she used to fight that I was a mama's boy, and now she was saying I was needy. While all these were still going on, I saw her with my stepdad, and that added to my fury. A few weeks later, it was Thanksgiving. Yes, I'm talking about the last Thanksgiving which just went. And she insisted that we invite Andrew. I was surprised at her direct suggestion. She said Andrew was living alone and had no one, so as an extended family, we should invite him. I told her that she never invited them when my mom was alive, and she was like, yeah, because they had each other to celebrate the evening, and now the poor old man was alone. Ultimately, I gave in. I actually wanted to see how they behaved in front of me. I won't say they were normal because now that I know the truth, but they didn't do anything which would have caused suspicion if I didn't know the truth. I was silent for most of the time. I was never fond of him, and my suspicions about him made me resent his presence. I felt he also understood that I did not like it. Overall, it was an awkward dinner with both of us eating silently and Celia trying to break the silence with some stupid topic only to get a fake smile from both of us. It was getting very difficult for me to live with a heavy heart, so I decided to chalk a plan. I thought of checking her phone, but that didn't work because her phone was locked and I didn't want to get into the details of asking for the password and all because she would get alert. So I came up with another plan. I told Celia that I would be going out of town for a couple of days for work purposes. On that supposed day, I left home early and went to my office normally. But before that, I had planted a GPS device in Celia's car, and I was tracking it remotely. Just before the afternoon, she drove to Andrew's place. I wanted to catch her red-handed, but I was worried that what if I showed up and they were just sitting and chatting? It would be like making a fool of myself. So I asked my friend, Keith, for help. I told him about my suspicion and requested him to visit Andrew. It was a very safe plan. I told him to record them if he found them doing anything outrageous. The house lock were password protected, and I was just hoping that Andrew didn't change the PIN. Keith was worried that Andrew might suspect him of sneaking into the house. I told him to just say that the front door was open, and he was just there to check on him. The main door didn't open in the living area. There was a small passage that led to the living room, so there was no one that would suspect him of unlocking the door. After a lot of convincing, he agreed. He went inside, but couldn't find them in the hallway. He then peeped inside the bedroom with his phone camera switched on. He had kept the phone in his shirt pocket with the camera popping out so that they didn't suspect him. He saw that the two were without clothes, cuddling each other. He then cried sorry and left the house before any of them realized. Andrew followed him outside, asking what he was doing there. Keith said that he was just there to check on him, but it's okay, he would come back later. He sat inside his car and drove off before any confrontation with Andrew or Celia. But I tell you, my friend is so stupid. Instead of opening the back camera, his front camera was open the whole time, and nothing got recorded except Andrew and Celia yelling at Keith's sudden appearance. Anyway, I got the confirmation that I needed. I had already packed 2 sets of clothes and my toiletries before leaving the house that day, so I went to Keith's house. His wife was out of town at her parents' house, so he insisted that I stay with him until all this was sorted. Celia knows that Keith would have told me the truth. She messaged me asking when I would come home. I didn't reply. Yes, I ghosted her. She's been blowing up my phone with her endless texts and calls. She thinks I'm out of town for work. It happened 4 days ago. I've contacted a lawyer virtually. I don't want to see her effing face ever. I'll serve her with the divorce papers and get her evicted from my house. Wow, yeah, your stepdad was lonely all right. On top of catching them canoodling, it's odd that Celia would request to spend Thanksgiving with Andrew. I'm sorry, OP. Seems like your instincts were right about him all along. Update 1. It took 10 days for the lawyer to send the divorce papers. Celia was just not ready to sign the papers and wanted a discussion. My lawyer suggested that we go for an out-of-court settlement if possible because that would substantially reduce our time and money. See, I'm a sales guy with a regular job. I have a certain limit in funds that I spend on lawyers and also limited leaves to attend the court case. So I agreed to a meeting in the lawyer's presence. But when I went for the meeting, she insisted on having a private conversation with me. I resisted, but my lawyer asked me to go for it, but not say or commit to anything which she demanded. He laid out a certain framework to keep my meeting within it. Like, no touching, no hugging, no confessions and all. I felt disgusted at her presence. She tried to hug me, but I pushed her away. She said it was all a misunderstanding. After reading so many cheating stories on Reddit, I know what all cheaters say. I was like, yeah, sure, you're trying to help out a poor old man from his loneliness, right? She said whatever Keith saw was true, and she's not denying it, but it was only cuddling and nothing else. Yes, of course, cuddling without clothes. But this was not enough. What she said next blew my mind. She said she did it to safeguard our future. Really? How the hell? She was like, so your mom left all her wealth to Andrew, and now if he marries someone else, that woman would be entitled to that wealth. Your family's property would go to someone else. I said, that's why you effed my stepdad so that you can become my stepmother and take my mother's wealth? Do you see the complexities in this family dynamics? I was feeling dizzy with her BS, so I stormed out of the meeting room. After I came back, my lawyer asked for the details of the conversation. I told him everything. He cracked up for a moment, but he was interested in knowing about the inheritance my mother had left. My mom had left a house that she had inherited from her uncle. It was a huge mansion, way beyond my means. Interestingly, Celia always had an eye on that mansion. After our marriage, she even insisted that we move into the mansion. I was happy that Celia wanted to move in with my mother, but no, Celia wanted my mom to move out to my apartment, and we took up her mansion, but I denied it. It was her house, and why should she leave? Celia said that you're the only son of your mom, so that house would come to you. So why not move in there right now? This led to frequent fights between us, so one day I just lied to her that Mom had willed the house to Andrew. And you see what price I had to pay for that lie? Celia went after my stepdad so that she could have the house. There was one more information that Celia didn't know. After Mom's demise, I didn't transfer the ownership of the house to my name. I wanted Andrew to live there until he wanted to. By transferring it to my name, it would be like he was living in my property, and I'm sure he was not going to like it. Also, the name transfer is expensive and I was running short of money during that time, so I let it be. And glad I did not transfer it because Celia would have been entitled to half of the property during our divorce. Or probably she wouldn't have screwed Andrew in that case, I don't know. But a cheater is always a cheater in any situation. Yeah, my mom had willed that house to me, but Celia didn't know that. Celia wanted me to have second thoughts about the divorce. She said that she would soon lure Andrew to gift her that house, and if I didn't divorce her, the mansion would be ours. I laughed at her proposal and said, "No, thank you for the offer. Good luck for your mansion." She smirked and said, "You're losing a lot by this divorce." I smiled and said, "I don't give an F." I don't know if she was really that dumb always, or if she was just acting to save her butt from the humiliation. But I don't care. Celia knew that I had no substantial wealth except for the savings in our joint account, which was split and divided between us. I'm feeling so relieved after the divorce was finalized. Any moment, if Celia got to know the truth about the ownership of the mansion, she would have never divorced me, and I cannot share my mom's inheritance with that whore. Celia dug her grave by confessing her intentions behind dating Andrew, because I was going to use that against her to drive Andrew away from her life. I saw Andrew picking her up from the court and assisting her with all the legal matters during our divorce. I was just waiting for the divorce to be over to burst her bubble and then see her reaction. Now that it is done, the next I'm going to do is destroy my love, Celia. Honestly, whoa, she's definitely too dumb for words. But it's also such a red flag that she was so interested in that mansion after the wedding. Seems like she went into this marriage with greedy eyes. She definitely had ulterior motives with you, and I'm sorry for that. And to try to defend her cheating by telling you it was for your own good? Wow. She's out of touch with reality. It's too bad she was more concerned with getting her hands on that mansion than she was with being faithful to you. Update 2. After my divorce was finalized, I texted the details of Celia's confession to Andrew. He was like, "You know that your mom has willed this mansion to you." I said, "Yeah, I have her will, but Celia doesn't know, and she's going to ask you to give the mansion to her." I was not doing any good service to him by revealing the truth. I just wanted to burst Celia's bubble. The poor girl was dreaming of having my mom's mansion. Andrew told me that of late, Celia was indirectly asking him regarding his will and who was going to get his inheritance. But he never understood her intentions because he didn't have any wealth to his name. I didn't want to have any bro code with Andrew, so I left the conversation in that note. After a while, I got a call from Celia. Usually, I wouldn't have responded to it, but this time I did because I knew what it was about. She was yelling from the other end. "Why didn't you tell me that your mother's willed the house to your name? I was licking this old man's butt, quite literally, to safeguard your property, and you a-hole destroyed me instead." I was just laughing at her abuses because it was coming out from a place of hurt. I said, "Thank you so much and good luck with your effing game." I hung up the call and blocked her. A few days later, she called me again from an unknown number, maybe from her friends or colleagues. She told me that Andrew had broken up with her. Somehow he got to know that she was with him just for the inheritance, and now when the truth came out, he dumped her. He called her a greedy whore. She was abusing him and said she was trying to help him cope with the loneliness, yet he turned against her. I don't know why she was still trying to pose herself as a pious woman when her truth had already come out. I sarcastically replied that, yes, you F everyone selflessly and only for the other's good. You have no underlying intention. She said she was with Andrew for my sake so that she could get the mansion for me, and now she is saying that she was trying to help Andrew cope with the loss of loneliness. Wow! Such a pure soul she was. She didn't give up there. She tried all means to contact me, pleading with me, sometimes gaslighting me to get back together. She showed up at my house, my office, and even at some of the regular public places I went. Yeah, it was so unbelievable that she showed up at the gym and tried to corner me to speak to her. It was a hell of a lot of nightmare, but I ignored her as if she was just a stranger to me. Technically, she was a stranger because our divorce was over. Sorry, not sorry, but Andrew's a fool to think a younger woman like Celia would ever be interested in him just for him. And Celia's even got bigger fool for getting her hands dirty with that degenerate. Update 3. I thought this saga was over, but my past popped out as soon as I changed the ownership of the mansion to my name. God knows what was her obsession with the house. I mean, yeah, it's understandable. Who would not want $1 million mansion to their name? But I don't know how long it would take for her to accept the reality. After 6 months of my divorce, I decided to transfer the mansion to my name. As I wrote earlier, I wasn't doing it until then because I didn't have enough savings to spare for that ownership transfer. Now that I was divorced and my expenses were reduced substantially, I was able to save up the transfer about 4 to 5 months. Before applying for the transfer, I informed Andrew about it. He was anyway not living in that house anymore after I got to know about his affair with Celia. I didn't ask him to vacate though, but he responded that he would take away his remaining belongings from the house, and he did that. He made me the admin of the locking system to the house. It took a couple of months for the paperwork to be ready, and meanwhile, I got it painted. The lawn and the pool were also not maintained for a long time, so I got all of them cleaned. I was no contact with Celia, and as per the last conversation I had with her, Andrew had also broken up with her. So I was perplexed when she showed up at the mansion during one of the cleaning days. I wasn't there, and the cleaning manager called me that a woman had come down and she was roaming around in the house. They tried to stop her from entering, but she told them she was my wife. Yeah. But the way she was filling the walls and interiors of the house, they suspected her to be a trespasser. Indeed she was, and I told them to kick her out, and I had no wife. They did as told, and then gave me a confirmatory call that the woman was out of the house. No prize for guessing if she showed up at my house. Yes, she did. She was crying and wailing that I had abandoned her when she did no wrong and that her intentions were pure. I told her to seek therapy and that she needed to check out a mental hospital instead of my house. She wanted me to let her inside the house and have a conversation, but I didn't. I closed the door on her face. Last month, I rented out that mansion to a family. Initially, I thought of shifting it there to save the rent of my current apartment, but then I did the calculation. The rent for that mansion is at least twice, if not more, than what I pay for my apartment, so it didn't make sense for me to move there. Also, that house is too huge for a single man. If I get married in the future and have kids, I'll surely move in there. But as of now, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I have also taken a restraining order against Celia on my mansion property. The chances of her sneaking into that place or vandalizing it were low because she had not been violent yet. Still, I didn't trust her, and I had to do this to safeguard the interest of the new tenants of that house. I don't want Celia to trouble them unnecessarily. It has been smooth until now, and I hope I don't have to make any further updates on this thread. I want Celia's chapter to end, so that I can move on with my life. I certainly wouldn't trust her either after all that she did. She hasn't given you a reason to trust her. I love how cheaters always try to say the one that got cheated on abandoned them, when in reality the cheater abandoned the relationship as soon as they entertained the idea of cheating. I'm sorry, OP. But also, I commend your choices and your foresight into not transferring the house into your name. You're a smart man. Your mama raised you right. What do you make of this? Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the next video. See you next time on rSpace.